and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup. I'm on antihistamines, cough medicine, and have a cough drop in my mouth. Let's see if I'm awake at the end of the show.
Let's see. But with lots of news to tell you about, including another state heard from. A federal judge has struck down the ban on same-sex marriage in, wait for it, South Dakota.
Nothing surprises us anymore. The Fifth Circuit in the South seems poised, much to, I think, everyone's surprise, to overturn gay marriage bans in Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi.
As the mayor of Atlanta stands up to religious anti-gay bigotry, and we're going to bring you that videotape, more and more states are scrambling to pass religious freedom laws that would bless anti-gay discrimination.
But the new governor of Illinois is not even waiting for laws. He has appointed a religious anti-gay bigot to head the state board of education.
But a Catholic priest in Dublin, Ireland, has come out and got a surprising reaction from his congregation.
Russia has found a new way to be cruel to people of transgender experience.
And there was a breakthrough in the persecution of 26 men arrested in a bathhouse in Cairo.
And as you probably know by now, but we'll remind you or tell those of you who weren't tuned in, there were a couple of big wins for transgender and gay and AIDS themes at the Golden Globe Awards last weekend.
But we do start in South Dakota in the Eighth Circuit, which is, and the first case there that's been decided, and it's decided in our favor, is from U.S. District Judge Karen Schreier. She overturned the ban there on same-sex marriage, but she immediately stayed her decision.
What she said is there is a fundamental right to marry in this country, and cited the Supreme Court decision on Loving versus Virginia, and then said that there was no reasonable reason to keep people out of marriage because they happen to want to marry a same-sex partner. So that was her line of reasoning on it.
Then we go to the Fifth Circuit. This was the cases from Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi that were heard by this circuit, a three-judge panel, two Reagan judges and an Obama judge. And as Ann said, to everyone's surprise, it looks like a win. Shannon Minter of NCLR wrote that Judge Graves and Judge Higginbottom, who were two of the three, were very encouraging. Judge Higginbottom, the Reagan appointee, said, "The question, when will Mississippi change, has reverberated through these halls before." And Judge Graves, who's an Obama appointee, said, "All this talk about Baker, the Baker v. Nelson case from the 70s, is making me nostalgic for my afro and 8-tracks. That was cute. But the mood was, we're going to overturn this thing.
It certainly looks that way. The one other judge, Judge Smith, did concentrate on citing the Baker v. Nelson case, which was the case out of Minnesota many years ago, where the Supreme Court found no federal issue.
Right.
But this was long before any of us thought of applying for marriage licenses. So people, court after court after court has mentioned Baker as existing, but has said it's really no longer precedent because all these decisions have come down since then that really overturn it in fact, if not in literal deed. So this guy is really just desperate in his attempt to hang his hat on this.
Did we show the picture of the plaintiffs coming out of the Fifth Circuit? We have a picture there from Louisiana.
So. These are the Louisiana plaintiffs.
Oh, there they are. There it says, United States Court of Appeals building for the Fifth Circuit. And there they are. Their names are John and Derek Penton-Robichaux.
But there are plaintiffs from all these states. Now, one disturbing thing was that there was a brief from the other side submitted by 4 adult kids of gay parents. But evidently these people have quite the reputation for going around and stirring up trouble. They submitted a brief against marriage rights for same-sex couples. They claimed, one of them said, I wanted a mom and dad. Another one said her dad was preoccupied with sex.
I wanted $1 million. I didn't get it.
Well, no one's paying close attention to this, but you don't even like to hear those kinds of things popping up.
The right wing is able to scare these people up.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court, on the same day that these cases were heard by the Fifth Circuit, had its own private conference to discuss whether or not to take some submitted marriage cases, specifically the case from Louisiana, which, while it was being heard at the Fifth Circuit, was also being heard in this conference as a possible leapfrog directly to the Supreme Court, and the Sixth Circuit cases from Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, and Tennessee.
So the Supreme Court said, we're not taking they're not taking the Louisiana case.
Right.
Which is not surprising. And but they have not made an announcement on the other cases. They're going to be meeting again.
They did make an announcement that they were reassigning them for discussion this week on Friday. So we may hear a decision this week on Friday afternoon about whether or not they're going to take them, or on Monday or whatever, or they may continue kicking it down the road.
So again, they're down to the Sixth Circuit decision, which is the only circuit court decision that has gone against us so far.
Right.
And Kentucky is in that circuit, and this past week, Kentucky recognized a same-sex divorce, even though they haven't legalized same-sex marriage there yet.
Same thing happened in Florida before marriage became legal there. A judge just decided, I'm going to grant this divorce, whether the state wants to recognize marriages or not.
And cleaning up the situation in Florida, they do have same-sex marriage there, but a gay couple won a dispute over a name change on their driver's licenses. The case is sort of moot because marriage has gotten started, but they were denied this in November. They had gotten married elsewhere, weren't allowed to do their name changes, and they were pretty pissed off about this, and they are still pursuing their case for damages because of the way they were treated.
We also mentioned last week the congressionally proposed Respect for Marriage Act, which would get rid of the Defense of Marriage Act completely. Florida Senator Bill Nelson has signed on as a co-sponsor of that. But the other Florida Senator, Marco Rubio, is still opposed to same-sex marriage. He thinks Florida Attorney General should appeal the ruling in Florida for same-sex marriage, but he's very clear. This is not bigotry.
No, I don't believe there is a constitutional right to it. I don't agree that couples have the power to, the courts have the power to do this. But he applauded a Florida federal ruling striking down part of Obamacare back in the day.
Do you think we could get a right-winger to come on this show and have the debate about it? Because I'm so itching to confront them with these questions about how dare you say this isn't bigotry? How dare you claim that courts have no jurisdiction to decide questions like this?
This gets down to all those cases of religious freedom, which they say is about religious freedom, and I say are about bigotry. So we should talk about that. And of course, the biggest development, we talked about it last week, but we want to show you the film, is from Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed.
Well, we'll get to that. We're not quite there yet.
You want to go through some other things?
Yeah, well, first I want to say that the Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi has not announced whether or not she's going to pursue her appeal in the 11th Circuit. She just keeps saying we need uniformity across this state, and gave her best wishes to married couples.
In Missouri, you can still get married in Kansas City, St. Louis, and Independence, as well as all of St. Louis County, but that's still being adjudicated.
And that's the 8th Circuit. So the South Dakota decision is 8th Circuit, and the patchwork in Missouri is 8th Circuit. And cases are beginning to bubble up there, and we're going to get to an 8th Circuit decision if the Supreme Court doesn't trump that. In Washington state, a judge says the state can sue a florist for refusing to sell flowers to a couple for a same-sex wedding. Again, that was another religious freedom question. And the Ninth Circuit has rejected Idaho Governor Butch Otter's request for a full en banc hearing on the marriage case that was decided months ago there.
It's already legal. Should we talk about what some of the other presidential candidates are saying? Mike Huckabee, who's getting ready to run for president, said, quote, "The claim that same-sex marriage is destroying society is actually greatly overstated."
Yeah, but he's still against it.
He's against it, and he's a very bad person.
And he's ditching his Fox show so he can run for president.
Yes, he is. And of course,
there was a column in the Times today that predicted 26 or 27 Republican candidates. It could happen.
Well, and we're reminded this week that Jeb Bush 20 years ago said he didn't want sodomy to have the same constitutional status as race and religion.
It's so clever the way they put that. In Georgia, a federal judge, this is the 11th Circuit, said he's totally against same-sex marriage, but he is allowing a case for it to proceed to trial.
Okay.
I wouldn't have a lot of hope of his ruling in our favor, but he's allowing it to go to trial. In Detroit, a minister there is suing for the right to perform same-sex marriages.
Yes.
He says
and polygamous marriages.
Yes.
So we might as well throw it in there. That's what this guy is saying. That's a little disturbing.
Well,
I don't mind saying.
Consenting adults.
Well, is it illegal to? I don't have any problem with any ceremony anybody wants to do under the First Amendment. But I mean, he wants that legally recognized.
I haven't read enough of the details. Right. I apologize.
Well, I want to not apologize, but correct something from last week. We've been noting that in 14 states that have marriage, there is no anti-discrimination law protecting people on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. But John Davidson of Lambda says if you are fired for marrying, you can file at the EEOC for sex discrimination if there are 15 or more employees in your outfit.
There also used to be laws outlawing discrimination on the basis of marital status.
There are some like that.
I would think you could invoke that, too.
There are some like that. But they could say, we're not doing this because you're married, we're doing this because you're a homosexual.
They always have an out, don't they?
Well, until we get some big federal ruling or we get federal rights.
FedEx's attempted out is 6 days. A California widow is suing FedEx. She and her wife were together for over 30 years. They got married as the wife was dying a couple of years ago. And the wife who died worked at FedEx for 26 years. So the surviving widow applied for survivor benefits from the company. And the company says, well, our insurance program was tied to the Defense of Marriage Act, and that wasn't overturned until 6 days after your wife died, and therefore we're not providing the benefits.
Well, I mean, so what's the argument? How far back do you go?
Well, the federal government went back in some cases beyond the actual overturning of the law. I think there was a Connecticut case where they gave some leeway for earlier things. And by the time the law was overturned, she was still dead.
So FedEx get with the program. Publix there's the Publix, Publix supermarket chain based in Florida, but stores throughout the South. They now offer insurance benefits to employees who are legally married, even if they don't live in a marriage equality state. And it is an employee-owned chain now.
In Texas and South Carolina, local legislators are proposing new laws that would forbid the spending of any government money to perform or recognize same-sex marriages.
I mean, this is just outrageous.
It's got to be totally unconstitutional.
Outrageous.
But again, they'll try anything.
And then I guess we should talk about it in the context of marriage. In Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte Catholic High School has fired a teacher, Lonnie Billard.
Billard.
Yeah, he's been there for more than 10 years. He's sort of semi-retired, but he still works there because he announced his marriage to his partner. And he says he is concerned about the message being sent to gay students. I like the message being sent to the students. Your church is anti-gay, and you shouldn't belong to it.
And the Archdiocese came back with this whole list of complaints about the newspaper article about this and said, what do you mean this sends a bad message to gay students? What are you talking about?
Well, actually, he says a gay student went in to the counselor and said, does this mean I have to leave the school?
Yeah.
You know?
There is your answer. All right, so let's move on to more of this religious discrimination and go to the mayor of Atlanta.
Yes. Mayor of Atlanta is Kasim Reed, and his fire commissioner wrote a Christian book with a lot of anti-gay, anti-woman, anti-Semitic stuff in it that he was using to sort of proselytize among the troops there. And he was put on a 30-day suspension, but he kept talking out, this is my faith, this is what, things got worse. So basically for insubordination, he was fired. This has become a cause célèbre on the right, and Mayor Kasim Reed had something to say about it at his press conference.
A developing story now.
No? Another tape? We'll try to find it.
We're going to have a chance of pulling that up after all, I hope.
Kasim Reed?
He was accused of firing him for his religious beliefs, but his...
Yeah, we got it. So go ahead when you have it. We'll take a look at it.
Roll it when you have it.
So let's stop trying to make this about religious freedom when it's about making sure that we have an environment in government where everyone, no matter who they love, can come to work from 8:30 or 8 to 5:30 and do their job and then go home without fear of being discriminated against. That is what this is about. And so the chief has been talking for 30 days in multiple forums, and so I'm here today to talk too. And to the extent that he continues to talk, so am I. Because my faith in God does not take a backseat to anyone else's faith. And I deeply resent the emails and phone calls to my home, to my wife during the holidays while I was spending time with my daughter, literally calling me an antichrist. Antichrist. And I don't mean one time or two times. So this is what Chief Cochran brought to my door, because he made the judgment that he should write a book that contains material that is clearly inflammatory and never ask me how I felt about it. In his book, he says that the world would be a better place, and I'm paraphrasing, if Eve had gotten permission before she talked to the snake. This isn't just about the LGBT community. This is about how we treat one another. And so those folks who were calling me and telling me that I should retain him, I just want you to know one thing. His religious decisions are not the basis of the problem. His judgment is the basis of the problem.
I wish we had a tough mayor like that here in New York, who's giving away the store to the religious groups. He's using them for all the after-school programs and
Well,
things.
he did get a very strong editorial from the New York Times in support.
He needs one down there.
He does need one down there, but I was happy to see the Times take this on and explain that this really is about insubordination and about a hostile work environment, and that he was right to fire him.
I mean, there's a right-wing commentator named Eric Erickson who compared the firing of the anti-gay, anti-Semitic fire chief to the massacre of journalists in Paris last week. He said the terrorists won in Atlanta. Well, this is really heavy. I mean, in Texas, they've introduced legislation in addition to the religious freedom thing to ban all gay rights laws. that cities will not be able to do this anymore. Now, that sounds like a violation. Sounds like a violation of the Amendment 2 case that was decided by the Supreme Court in 1996 in Colorado. But it's being written to bar localities from adding categories not protected under state or federal law.
Well, that's what happened in Tennessee. They passed a law that said a local city or town cannot pass a non-discrimination law that goes beyond what the state already has. This is their way of preventing more progressive locations, urban areas or whatever, from passing these laws. And there have been attempts to challenge this law in Tennessee, but so far what the courts have said is whoever has brought these lawsuits doesn't have standing to sue. I don't know if they're looking for someone who has been discriminated against and has been told they can't bring a lawsuit, and that would give them standing. But so far, any attempts to challenge the Tennessee law have failed. Now, people will continue to challenge these laws if Texas and others succeed in passing them. But again, they're getting tricky. They're looking for openings in any way they can.
They have found unique ways to discriminate against us, even in death. In Denver, Colorado, the pastor of New Hope Ministries there canceled a funeral of a woman at the last minute because the family wouldn't edit a video of Vanessa Collier kissing her girlfriend. And we have her
wife.
Well, I'm sorry. Well, I don't know if they were married at the time.
Well, they had at least a civil union.
Right.
And 2 kids.
People were already seated at this thing and had to move across the street. So we have a news report on this, and we'd like to bring it to you because it shows the family being, so outspoken and supportive. They picketed,
A developing story now. Friends and family furious in Lakewood protesting New Hope Ministries. Their friend's funeral moved to a different location at the last minute.
Services for Vanessa Collier moved to the funeral home. That after the minister at New Hope realized her memorial video had pictures of her sharing a kiss with another woman. 7 News reporter Lance Hernandez outside that church now, and Lance, a lot of frustration there.
There's a lot of frustration. You know, a family spokesman told me that they rented that church, paid $400 for it, even brought their own minister. They said the folks at New Hope knew that Vanessa Collier was gay and didn't have a problem with it until they saw the tribute video showing her kissing the woman she had joined in a civil union. Family and friends who gathered in protest say New Hope Ministries caused immeasurable grief when they forced Vanessa Collier's family to move her funeral after guests had already sat down. The reason? Family members wouldn't edit a video tribute to Vanessa which showed her kissing her wife. The church's pastor doesn't allow depictions of homosexuality in the sanctuary.
He could have easily allowed the service to take place, and afterwards, if he felt that he needed to go in and throw holy water all over and cleanse the place, then make that decision later.
Family spokesman Jose Silva says a copy of the video was provided to New Hope 2 days before the funeral, but that church pastors didn't review it until minutes before the service.
I was just really hurt that they could pack us up like that and throw us out. It was very disgusting.
A church teaches you compassion, respect, and thou shalt not judge. And have compassion. They didn't have respect, and they judged.
Only God can judge!
The protesters say they want New Hope to apologize to the family. Some churchgoers say New Hope has nothing to apologize for.
The Pastor Ray, he stood for what he believes in, and he believes in God's truth. He's not wrong, he's right in what he did.
Now, a family spokesman told me that had the pastors here at New Hope looked at that tribute video when it was first delivered a couple of days before the service and told the family to look for another option, they wouldn't have had a problem with that. Instead, he waited until the morning of that service. Now, the private chaplain who conducted the service across the street says moving the casket at the last minute was a nightmare, but he said the pallbearers and everyone else handled it as professionally as possible. In Denver, Lance Hernandez, 7 News.
Terrible.
You're sitting in the church at the funeral, and they come in and say, I'm sorry, you have to move across the street. We're not going to do the funeral here.
Shocking.
Because of your video.
Shocking. I hope it's the last gasp for these types, but I'm not sure. They're certainly fighting back. And the new Republican governor of Illinois certainly has no problem promoting religious bigots. He's appointed Reverend James Meeks, a former Democratic state senator, to head the Illinois State Board of Education. He's a Baptist minister. He campaigned against gay rights and marriage, okay. He also condemned Hollywood Jews for making Brokeback Mountain. I mean, is this not enough to get somebody out of public life?
Only in Atlanta. Not in Illinois.
Maybe we need some Jews arguing for religious freedom. I don't know.
I don't understand that.
Well, I mean, if he's condemning Jews and all this kind of stuff.
In Virginia, Governor Terry McAuliffe has promised that he will veto any so-called religious freedom bill.
Do they have enough to override him?
I don't know that, but I think their legislature has been fairly closely divided for some time, so I would suspect not.
I mean, this bill is very gay-specific in its language, anti-gay specific, I should say. Yeah. Now,
of course, in Starkville, Mississippi, the aldermen there, by a vote of 5-2, have repealed a non-discrimination statement. The mayor vetoed it. They did it in a secret executive session so that people would not know they're even doing this, let alone who was voting
He
which
really
way.
slammed them over it, and they may have violated open meetings laws and things like that. It's really 2 steps back, but they certainly, I guess, they have the votes to override him. But it's too bad.
In Michigan, a little better news. You remember this nutcase, Andrew Shervill, who was the assistant attorney general in Michigan, and he decided to target the out gay president of the student body at the University of Michigan. And he stalked him, and he harassed him, and he
it was a big story.
Yes, so he was fired in 2010 because of this. Well, he went to an appeals court asking for the right to get unemployment benefits, and the appeals court has turned him down and said that anyone who acts like that is not entitled to.
You don't get benefits if you're fired for cause.
Exactly.
In San Diego, the city says it did not discriminate against a gay man who wore a leather kilt at Pride in 2011. But they are now telling the Ninth Circuit, where this case is right now, that it is effectively banned beachwear, G-strings, bikinis, and Speedos that reveal any portion of the buttocks or upper thigh on city beaches. So this is like crazy. In order to stop this guy and say we're being consistent, they're saying the other guy's saying, well, wait a minute, you let all these people walk around like this on the beach. What about me? And they're saying, oh no, we're going to ban all of it. And the tourism industry is like, what?
It's crazy.
So. I want to
Saks Fifth Avenue has been accused of discriminating against a transgender employee, and they have denied it and said that transgender people are not specifically covered by Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, which is, of course, directly contrary to opinions from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
This case is so big and egregious that even the Human Rights Campaign is on it and saying, we're going to downgrade your rating, Saks, if you don't stop this.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have suspended Saks's score as gay-friendly.
How about lowering the score?
I think they're on the way to doing that, because Saks is not backing down.
Terrible.
Yeah.
We really should have a demonstration in New York about this, because we've got a big Saks here.
Fine
on Fifth Avenue, because that's what it's called.
They had a big demonstration in Washington, D.C. on Saturday. Over 300 people marched in support of the now newly proposed Leela's law that would ban conversion therapy for minors nationally. We have started to see these laws be passed state by state, but after the trans teen killed herself a few weeks ago, this has now provoked more of a movement.
Right. Should we run our other video or other trans? We'll be skipping order, but should we run our other trans?
No, I think we should move on to the stories out of Seattle and New York. Which one do we have first? Oh, Seattle. There's something in Seattle called the Queen Mary Tea Room. And they got upset because in Salt Lake City, a gay couple started something called the Queen's Tea.
We have a picture of the couple there.
And
there they are.
So Queen Mary's Tea Room charged that Queen's Tea was an infringement of their trademark.
Because they were selling Tea Queen T-shirts as a fundraiser for homeless LGBT youth in Utah. The men, Michael Ferguson and Seth Anderson, they were also the first same-sex couple to marry in Utah in 2013.
Exactly.
And they say that they grew up being bullied for being true to themselves, and they will stand up to this attack too, although it seems to be bankrupting them. They're students.
It seems quite a stretch to say that that's a violation of the trademark.
Absolutely. I mean, queen, you can trademark that word, for God's sakes. That's ridiculous.
I don't think that, I think queen and tea together is what they're claiming. And in better advertising news, Tiffany & Company has for the first time used a gay couple in an ad for engagement rings.
There they are. And they're actually a real couple.
Yeah, but they're not looking at each other.
One's looking at the other one.
Yeah, but the other one's looking off. I don't think it's a very romantic picture.
They're trying to show off the ring.
No, they're trying to avoid having it look too romantic between two men.
Yeah.
Well, that's my interpretation.
Interesting. In Mississippi, in Rankin County, the school board there is trying to block the gay-straight alliance. They want to require parental consent, and they say having a group like this would violate our abstinence-only policy.
Bulletin, having a gay-straight alliance of people who talk to each other has nothing to do with violating an abstinence-only policy. Never know what it can lead to. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
What does the prom lead to?
I want to note the passing of Al Bendick, the lawyer who defended Lenny Bruce, but also Allen Ginsberg's Howell from obscenity charges. He died at 85 in Oakland. He also handled some gay cases over the years.
And I want to note that California Senator Barbara Boxer announced that she will be retiring from the Senate, not running again in 2016. And a lot of people are stepping forward to run, most prominently California Attorney General Kamala Harris, who everybody loves as a great progressive. And so people are jumping on board that campaign very fast.
I imagine that's who will win in California, I hope, if we work hard.
Well, there are some other prominent possible candidates.
Gavin Newsom,
no, he said he's not running.
He's absolutely not running.
Villaraigosa, the former mayor of LA, may run, and there's another guy who may run, but not Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom wants to be governor.
Okay.
Another ex-gay has come out as gay. Randy Thomas, formerly of Exodus International, admits he's actually happily gay.
Welcome back.
And I watched the TLC show, My Husband's Not Gay. Did you watch it?
I rely on you to do this.
Well, here's the thing. They talked about a tight-knit community of SSA in Salt Lake City, same-sex attracted men.
Yes,
they try to make a distinction
term for it.
Yes. At first, it felt kind of hilarious because it was such a gay show, and they're all so gay, and it.
What do you mean they're all so gay? What does that mean?
They're totally gay, and it just looked funny.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
And so obvious that they were all gay. But as it went on, I got the feeling of, really, it's tragic to give the message that this is, and, people make choices about their behavior. They're entitled to make whatever choices they want.
And when you make a choice like this, it helps you get on a reality show.
Well, which is
what people seem to want.
It was depressing in the end, and what the women end up doing is being eternally vigilant for their husbands looking at other men all the time. That's their whole dynamic, is the women's vigilance about...
Pathetic.
What did you think of him? Or you're going camping? You're playing basketball?
What is this, Brokeback Mountain?
It was.
Well, speaking of...
they also said in the show that same-sex attraction is a major problem in Argentina.
Argentina?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of camp and camping, they have a camp for transgender and gender variant youth in Maine, and a transgender boy named Alex did a rap act at the talent show or something, and we have this tape. It's been online for a while, but I think it's very charming.
This is Mazai, Zena, and Elizabeth, and I'm going to be rapping a song that me and my mom wrote together about how I came out and told her that I was transgender. Where's Mom? Right there. Stand up. Love you. So I need you guys' help. Can you guys help them with the beat? Yeah. Take it away, Mazai. Come on, people. So I have a little story I'd like to share about something I went through that might seem pretty rare. Please try to imagine if this were you when I saw her smile. She told me I was brave and that she was so proud that I came to her so she can help me sort things out. My family and friends were also on board, and the support that I got just had me floored. And from that day on, I started my path, and we worked together and even faced some rounds. Together we can weather whatever this life brings, and we'll continue to love, and I'll continue to sing. And I know that there are other kids who feel like I do, and I truly understand what they are going through. Thank you all for sitting here and taking the time to let me tell my message in the form of a rhyme. Please treat everyone the way you expect. We all deserve freedom, love, and respect.
We all deserve freedom, love, and respect. That is so charming and makes me think we're winning.
Well, yes and no.
Yes, well.
The State Department announced that it wants to cancel domestic partner benefits for its employees. That's not a win, especially because we're talking about employees serving in countries that are not going to like it if people are same-sex married.
Oh, I see. They'll give it to you if you're married, but no more domestic partner benefits.
Exactly.
That's bad.
Yeah, especially in that context.
Yeah.
And we have a sentence in the Florida hazing death, the Florida A&M University, the band member who was killed on the bus.
Yes.
The ringleader got 6 years on the grounds that the guy who was dead had been a willing participant in the ritual.
Whew.
Watch out.
Watch out indeed.
Yeah.
International news.
International news.
Where are we? Well,
Egypt.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a big breakthrough in the case because the men were acquitted in the bathhouse case.
26 guys arrested in the bathhouse.
They were acquitted of debauchery charges. Now, they're saying it's the first time a court there has cleared men accused of homosexuality. Now, homosexuality per se is not a crime there, although they always find something to get you on. But the prosecutors, and I didn't realize this could happen, and it wouldn't happen in our justice system, are appealing the acquittal.
They get a couple of chances to appeal.
They get a couple of shots at it. Now,
and I think they're still in jail. They have not been released from jail.
Outrageous.
In Russia, they're finding tricky new ways. That's our theme today, the relentless, shameless efforts of the right wing.
This isn't tricky. This is ridiculous.
No driver's licenses for transgender people on the grounds that they have a mental disorder.
Now, I will remind everybody that the United States used to exclude gays from immigration and certain kinds of licensing as a mental disorder, and some of that lasted until 1990 in this country. So Russia's about 25 years behind the times.
If you drive to a store to buy sex toys, you are likely to have your information taken down and have your driver's license taken away from you on the grounds that you have a mental disorder. Now, you may remember a year ago, those of us from Queer Nation and allies were out in front of the Metropolitan Opera and Carnegie Hall protesting performances by Russian conductor Valery Gergiev and soprano Anna Netrebko.
Big Putin pals.
Well, they're back. They're coming back, and we're going to be protesting them again on Monday, January 26th, out front of the Metropolitan Opera. We'll give you more details next week, but if you would like to join us, hopefully the weather will be slightly warmer, but we'll be dragging out those rainbow banners again and protesting, actually in league with the Ukrainian nationalists who don't like Putin either.
Strange bedfellows.
We've checked with them. Everybody's happy. Everyone's going to be together. Everybody's cool. Yeah, we don't charge into these things stupidly.
All right. In Italy, a court has held for the first time recognizing a legal status of a child born to a gay couple. They were challenging a law that marriage is only between a man and a woman. This was in Turin. The child was born to Spanish and Italian lesbian couple, now divorced, and the ruling gives the kid Italian citizenship. A Spanish court, of course, had given them joint custody, where same-sex marriage is legal. In Ireland, the marriage referendum is in. Let's do this first. We got in terms of our actuality. Let's talk about Cardinal Raymond Burke.
Okay.
Now he was booted from the #2 post at the Vatican for not taking a softer tone, and he gave it. But he's been booted, but he's not shutting up, and the Pope's not shutting him up. He said the Catholic Church has become. Look at him. The Catholic Church is becoming too feminized. He says there are fewer altar boys because they allowed altar girls, and boys don't want to do things with girls. And being an altar server requires manly discipline. This is the guy telling us this.
You left out the best phrase after boys don't want to do things with girls. It's just natural.
Gay clergy, he says, were responsible for the sexual abuse crisis. Radical feminism has undermined the Catholic faith. To which I say, let's hope so.
He's a piece of work.
Phew. But he's not being disciplined by the Holy Father.
Well, because he's been so marginalized, I assume.
Being given a platform. You know, when we used to speak out on this stuff,
not by the Vatican.
The Catholic priests I know who used to speak out about this stuff were disciplined and shut up and put under silences, like John McNeil. But we'll see what's going to happen to this priest in Ireland. With having the marriage referendum there in May, and this parish priest, we got a picture of him in Dublin for the last 15 years, Father Martin Dolan, called on his congregation to support the change in the Constitution there on family law, and he added, "I'm gay myself." Well, for this, he received a standing ovation from the congregation. Mm-hmm. That's the big news in it, is that they support him. And I heard this is not exactly the easiest neighborhood in Dublin to get a standing ovation on gay stuff.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yes.
The Church of Scotland has announced that it will be fine with having its ministers have same-sex partnerships. 55% of the presbytery approved it, but it has to be ratified by the General Assembly in May. And the poor gay couple in Mexicali, Baja California, still cannot get married. This has become, it's like a Mexican telenovela.
It is.
It's a soap opera.
Big demonstrations.
Well, this time they showed up to get married. This was their third or fourth attempt. And they had to go through a premarital counseling session, which should be just pro forma. But the counselor said, "They're insane. I will not approve this marriage." It had not occurred to anyone that this was going to be the stumbling block this time around. But she said no.
Well, you're still not allowed to get same-sex marriage in Northern Ireland. And so there's a couple there going to court January 15th to have their legal marriage in England recognized at home. They're an anonymous couple, but they are backed by the movement in doing so.
In Kiev, Ukraine, there was an arson at a movie theater showing a gay movie.
Yeah.
And word from India is that since the sodomy law was reinstated in 2013, 600 plus have been arrested under the reinstated law.
And then there was this soap opera in, Goa?
Yeah, that's gone back and forth.
It has gone back and forth. This is a state in India. There was sort of a youth minister who said he was looking to set up centers a la Alcoholics Anonymous for LGBT youth to make them normal, putting them through training and medical treatment. And then the minister said, I really just meant gay people who were drug addicted and abused. And then the chief minister slammed him and said, and this is important, said homosexuality is a natural gift. And Ban Ki-moon was speaking in India, the UN Secretary General, and he spoke out in New Delhi against the sodomy laws and said they breed intolerance. It's good that he brought that message there where this problem is happening.
He's terrific. And gay leaders around the world wrote a letter to Obama saying, "We love your pro-LGBT words and deeds, but please be consistent. Don't just go after the proposed anti-gay law in Uganda. You also have to denounce what has happened in Nigeria, in Brunei, in India, the Gambia, Kyrgyzstan. Please send this pro-LGBT message around the world."
Right.
And a small item in London, Uber, the car service, has apologized to a gay couple who got kicked out by a driver for kissing in the back of the car.
Well, you know, Peter Tatchell sent something out noting that, yeah, we've made great progress here, but it's taken a long time and there's still some problems. But he noted that even when they got rid of, consensual sodomy laws, essentially, they found a lot of reasons to arrest gay people for years, including holding hands, kissing on the street. This was happening into the 80s, et cetera, in great numbers.
We are not all the way yet.
No.
All right. Neither are we all the way in eradicating the AIDS epidemic. And in AIDS news this week, we have the report from the New York State Ending the Epidemic Task Force put together by Governor Andrew Cuomo. Dozens of leaders in the fight against HIV and AIDS, activists, people who work at organizations.
We're the only two people I know who aren't on it.
And we do know 90% of the people on the task force. So in fairly short order, they have come out with their plan to end AIDS by 2020 in New York State. Now, how do you define ending AIDS? They define it as reducing new infections from 3,000 a year currently to under 750, and ending AIDS-related deaths.
And the main way of doing this is to get people tested on adherent to drugs, and then they also become less infectious so that they're not infecting other people if they're on the drugs. And this is the way. I mean,
real universal testing has been talked about. It's been recommended by the CDC. It's never really happened. And to incorporate it in people's basic health care is a real goal at this point, because we do have treatment, because stigma is lessened, I would say, not eradicated, certainly. But we know how important it is to get people on treatment and what a difference it can make in slowing the epidemic. So if you have not been tested, you should be tested. Well, when I hear myself say should, I then want to slap myself down. But testing is a high recommendation of this task force.
You're also talking about like who's still getting it. A lot of them are African American and Latino youth, especially in New York. A lot of it is, men who have sex with men and transgenders. And, I work with New Alternatives for Homeless LGBT Youth, and we have clients who will not be adherent to their drugs, because they don't care, or they get the drugs and they sell them. Because they're trying to survive on the streets. So this is a very complex problem.
It is a complex problem, and the report does talk about targeting education and outreach to specifically at-risk groups like that. But you're right, keeping people adherent to treatment is also a major point of this report.
Yeah. Very hard to do if you don't have a home.
Exactly. And so another point of this report is to provide housing, transportation, and food for low-income HIV-positive people.
Imagine that.
Well, it goes back to what we've known for 30 years. You have to deal with the issues of poverty and race and homophobia and sexism.
And you can't act like these problems are intractable and are always going to be with us. They can be solved.
They can.
Right.
Look at how much money we pour into other things. What if we decided to actually provide a
Well, one of the problems we have is that big corporations in this country have bought the government and are, making it into an austerity government that is cutting services like this. So, ACT UP is looking to demonstrate against the Human Rights Campaign, which is honoring their Fortune 500 companies, at their gala at the Waldorf Astoria on January 31st at 5 o'clock. Park Avenue and 49th Street. They want AIDS included, how employees with HIV are treated, to be part of the way that these companies are evaluated. And they denounce these companies for working against the welfare of the middle class and the poor.
And some people are a little nervous about HRC getting too deeply into the AIDS stuff.
All right.
But certainly honoring these major companies without holding them more accountable is an issue. All right, entertainment news.
Well, the big news was from the Golden Globes,
right.
Where two of the big, Jeffrey Tambor, who is in Transparent, we have a picture of him in his role in Transparent, where he plays a transgender person, won the Best Actor award in television, and Transparent won the Best Comedy. I have to say, I haven't seen this. Have you?
I saw the pilot episode, which was available free on Amazon. This is on a sort of pay-per-view Amazon setup. If you have Amazon Prime, I guess you have full access to it. I liked the first episode, and the reviews, I think, have been generally quite good for Transparent, and people are happy about it. There's some controversy about the writing of it. Jill Soloway, who is the creator of all this, has a transsexual parent, and that's where this came from in the first place. But there haven't been trans writers on the show. Now she has hired a trans writer, but there's some controversy about whether it's the right person or not. So that's still up in the air. But to have a show that is not on regular broadcast TV win Best TV Series, Comedy or Musical is astonishing.
And The Normal Heart didn't win Best Television Film, but Matt Bomer did win for Best Supporting Actor for The Normal Heart, and that's what he looked like in the film. He lost 40 pounds during the filming in order to, this was not some special effect on his part, and of course he's out gay as well, playing a gay man, and he is out gay.
And Kevin Spacey won for The Closeted Gays.
And this was the Golden Globes, Kevin. Perfect opportunity to pull a Jodie Foster and come out.
Exactly. I liked her coming
Everybody's
out
drinking. They wouldn't pay any attention to what you were saying.
Now, I read that the Hollywood Foreign Press had invited Conchita Wurst as a guest, but I didn't see her in attendance anywhere.
And you can't miss her.
And she was talking about how she loves Fashion Police, but was scared of Kathy Griffin.
And she says, "I'm not transgender. I am a gay man in drag."
Yeah.
Right.
And I watched the new Fashion Police with Kathy Griffin and Brad Goretzky as the new gay guy replacing George Katsiopoulos. I thought it was too fashion and not enough humor. The show worked when it was just a vehicle for Joan Rivers' humor. Right. Now, this was a little cautious and a little too fashion-oriented, too seriously. I hope they loosen up.
In the new movie Paddington, the bear's voice is, this is Attention American Family Association, is being done by out gay actor Ben Whishaw. After Colin Firth apparently didn't work out in that role, Hugh Bonneville, who was Lord Grantham on Downton Abbey, has the live-action lead of Mr. Brown. He gets up in drag at one point in the movie, apparently, earning it a PG, parental guidance rating from the British Board of Film, as this constituted a mild sex reference, according to the board. Well, there was an uproar over this, and they didn't pull the rating. They just said they just changed it to a sexual innuendo.
You probably didn't watch Bill Maher's show Friday, or I would have heard you exploding through the roof.
No, I didn't see him yet this week.
Jay Leno was a special guest, the one who comes on at the desk towards the end. So at the end, Bill Maher's wrapping up, and Jay Leno leans over and he's sort of going, "Oh, we love Bill, we love Bill." And Bill Maher goes, "Get off me, you homo."
Oh, God. I have said repeatedly that Bill Maher tells fag jokes and would say, "Oh, don't be ridiculous, I'm pro-gay." I'm sick of it. And quite frankly, Jay Leno used to do it on his show as well. Craig Ferguson did. We'll see what the new guy who's taken over for Craig Ferguson,
really ugly.
James Corden, does.
More interesting is this new Fox show, Empire, produced by Lee Daniels, the out gay African-American director. The Butler and lots of other wonderful movies. Empire is it's supposed to be the sort of Black Dynasty. It's the hip-hop world, and Terrence Howard is the patriarch, and he's got these 3 sons, and it's a King Lear kind of thing, and Taraji Henson is his wife, who gets out of 17 years in prison and comes back and wants part of the business, and one of the sons is gay. And Terrence Howard hates his gay son, and Taraji Henson is sticking up for the gay son, but making some homophobic comments in the process. But this gay son storyline is front and center in this new really hit show on Fox. And it's fascinating how they're playing with it. I've only seen the first episode so far, but it's a real soap opera. It's nothing deep, but it's quite juicy.
Let's go from Fox to MGM, or at least the Goldwyn Company. Samuel Goldwyn Jr. died at the age of 88. He was a great movie producer who did a lot of independent films, including Ang Lee's breakthrough gay-themed The Wedding Banquet, and 1989, longtime companion about the early days of AIDS that had some theaters refusing to book the film. And when he promoted it, he did it with a trailer that got to AIDS in the first 10 seconds.
A few things coming up. There's a one-woman play in Berkeley, California at the moment, Hick, a love story, the story of Eleanor
musical.
Roosevelt.
I saw the workshop.
Did you?
With Leah Delaria as Hick.
Well,
I don't know who's playing it now.
Not Leah Delaria.
We're not supposed to talk about workshops that we see.
But it's at the Berkeley City Club through the end of the month. And in New York, at the Theater for the New City in February, Barbara Kahn has a new play, Women of the Wind, about women from Gone with the Wind, including the lesbian Ona Munson, who played Belle Watling. And opening this weekend, Appropriate Behavior, a little independent movie about Brooklyn lesbians by Desiree Akhavan, who describes herself as a bisexual Persian and is now on the new Girls season.
That's on the cover of Gay City News this week.
Appropriate Behavior is the name of the movie. It's playing in a dozen cities around the country.
And I want to give you the gay angle on Downton Abbey. Now, it's not just the mean guy, the gay guy. It's terrible. Thomas. I mean, it's not just about him. Lady Mary's suitors on that show are played by men who've done huge, prominent gay roles. The guy playing Tony Gillingham is Tom Cullen. We have a picture of him in the movie Weekend. There he is on the left there. That's Tom Cullen. I saw that movie and didn't put these two guys together right away because I'm not as familiar with his work. And of course, Weekend is by Andrew Hay, who was doing Looking on HBO. The other picture is of Lady Mary's other suitor, Charles Blake, on the show, Julian Ovenden. That's him on the right with his robe on to the other guy. He is in the London play right now, My Night with Reg, a revival of 20 years ago of this big gay play there in London. So,
something to look forward to in the spring on HBO. By director Dee Reese, who we had here, who made Pariah, the autobiography Bessie, executive produced by and starring Queen Latifah.
Oh my goodness. Will you finally come out now, Queen? Oh, are we allowed to say Queen, or are we going to get sued by the company in Seattle?
You always have an invitation to come here. And so do you. We'll see you next week.
Come out on this show, Queen Latifah.
Sure.
We're inviting you right now. Because you might say, I was never asked. You've been asked. And I know she watches every week to see if we're going to talk about her.